So what are people really buying? I mean, when they go to buy a pet, or if they're buying a breeder animal, it's more than likely some of the same things that determine which one or who they buy it from, right? So I think in this video, I'll be able to cover some information that might be able to help you. I know that this is the same information that I look at, and it's helped me out tremendously. I truly believe that everyone should be able to succeed in the reptile market because to date, there's about 348 million people living in America, so close to 350 million people. The reptile market share of all of that is just 6 million people. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Paul with Spheric Reptile. And today in this video, what I'd like to cover is customers don't buy reptiles, but they buy something, right? So what is the something that they're buying? As I have baby Ruth here, she's almost an adult. She's a Batman yellow belly or a leopard spot nose yellow belly clown. And I'm bringing her out just for the emphasis on the introduction. So say you got two breeders. They both have this exact same snake. Now, one breeder sells his snake in 3 days, and the other breeder is still holding on to this same snake after 3 months. So what's the difference? What is it about the first breeder that allows this person to sell their snake within 3 days, whereas the other one who has the exact same snake, the exact same genes, is still with this snake for 3 months? Now, this is a holdback for us, and I'm pretty sure that she would have sold if we would have ever put her on the market. But that's what's happening in the world of reptiles, not just ball pythons, where you have people with the same or similar animals and they're still having them after 3 months, 6 months, almost a year for some cases. Whereas if we flip that page over, there's another person or group that's selling their animals within the first couple of weeks of them being on the market. What is it that is causing customers to choose choice A to buy the snake here versus choice B where they're sitting on the snakes? The question is why. The answer is not luck. It's not advertising, which you would think that there would be some of that. So by chance someone could find you, which that happens, or by chance they could see an advertisement, which also happens. But the key to the matter is trust. So in the reptile industry, where the market share is only at 3 to 4%, 5% at very best, if we give it some very, very, very good odds, it's 5%. But in reality, it's 6 million people in the US that have reptiles, right? And that's not a lot. What I'd like to cover in this video is how you can establish that trust so that you can get more people to see your brand as something that's trustworthy so that they can actually depend upon it and they ultimately purchase an animal from you. First, what I'd like to do is give you a 10,000 feet view, right? I want to let you see just exactly how everything looks from 10,000 feet up. And it's a little bit different. The total US population is around 348 million, with 71 million of those owning dogs and about roughly 50 million of those owning cats and around 6 million of those people owning reptiles. So we see where the lion's share is at. So this is why every time you go to a pet store, you see dog food and dog leashes, and no knock on dogs, I love them. And then you see cat things, but as you go to the fish, the birds, the reptiles, that store has to make a choice as to where they're going to invest their dollars, right? And that's one of the main things that dictates a lot as well. So if we look at the bulk of our advertising, they're dog related, then they're cat related, and then you might see a reptile related one if there's a reptile expo that's coming near you sometime. But at the end of the day, if we look at the dollar amount spent, because that's where people are putting their choices. So people do what they want. They do what they want with their money, especially. Their time, maybe not, but especially with their money. They definitely choose and pick where they're going to put their money. With $158 billion being spent on the pet market.
What country you from? What ain't no country I ever heard of?
It's easy to understand why the lion's share is with dogs and cats. Now, for those 6 million people that have reptiles, there's still a market for them, and that market is highly specialized, because not everything that's for one reptile is for another. So if you have a snake, it might not be something that's equally fitting for a chameleon or for a bearded dragon. They all live in different types of environments. They all have different care needs and things like that. But it's good to know that we have manufacturers right now that are becoming more and more commercially available that cater to these specialized pets, which is making it a little bit easier for people to actually go and get it like in a one-stop, one-shop-fits-all. So you can get chameleon setups, you can get bearded dragon setups, and you can get snake setups, especially for animals like ball pythons. It's fairly easy and they're fairly common. But what's the cost? What is the cost to get one customer for each segment? Now, if we look at dogs, then I look over here and it's about $40 that they have to spend to get one dog owner to buy something. And for cats, it's around $150 to get them to buy something. Now, the cat owners are a little bit more specialized and they normally know exactly what they want. And that could be word of mouth. It could be something that they've used in the past, but there are definitely dog people and cat people. And then likewise, there are reptile people. So let me just tell you what the cost is per reptile. And you're going to see this on the screen as well. But for an expo table, it costs you about $15 to get one dedicated customer to buy a reptile. On Morph Market or online, it's about $25. Social media or an organic type of content is $35. If you use a paid meta ad, it's around $80. And if you choose to go with Google ads or anything above that, it's an average of about $105. You can see that there's a lot of different places that you could be spending your money to get that customer to, remember, develop that trust in you. But the advertisement space is rented, whereas the trust is owned.
So what was I saying?
That's one of the things that I really want to stress in this video is that when you're paying for the customers, because everything comes at a cost, you do a reptile expo, you pay for the table, and you're there all day, right? 2 days. If you pay on Morph Market to sell your animals, you got to pay for that too. So with that convenience comes a cost, right? And there's different tiers and different levels that people can trust you at. Like if someone's at the premium level versus a pro level versus standard or basic, then depending on the customer, they could trust you either more or less. So, I mean, I'm just saying everything like that comes at a cost. But what actually gets someone to pull the trigger, because remember we had in the beginning those two people with the same exact reptile or the same exact ball python, and one person sells theirs in 3 days, whereas the other person still has theirs after 3 months. So it can't be how much you're spending. It has to be something else, some other variable in this niche market of reptiles. And I know that 6 million people is nothing to sneeze at, but that's still a niche market when we compare it to dogs and cats, right? Let's just face it. I always push social media. I always tell people you need to do something on social media because it's free. It's free advertising. But let me tell you another analogy. So you have a brand new person that's the reptiles. They're kind of indifferent. You can just plug in whatever reptile that they want, but they have two different choices. They got one person that they've never heard of, and they have one person that they've watched on YouTube for the past 6 months. So who do they buy from? Do they take a chance? And remember, this is all about trust. Do they take a chance and trust someone that they've never heard of? Or even if they just say, I just want to trust the person that I feel like I know the most. And that's what it's all about, is the familiarity and not being such a stranger. So the person that they've seen for about 6 months, it could be on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, it could even be on Facebook, or maybe they just go to a lot of shows. But whoever they see the most is probably who they're going to trust the most with the information, because at that point they feel as if that person is more reachable. So if something goes wrong, because no one cares if anything goes right, but if something goes wrong or they have a question, will they be able to get an answer to that question? Which leads me into the next segment. Customers don't buy animals based on genetics. They don't buy based on the animal being better. They buy based on the lowest amount of risk. So that goes back to the two choices. If a person has someone that they've never heard of before versus someone that they have, and they feel a little bit more familiar with the person because they've just seen them more on YouTube or some other social media content or at a reptile expo, that's a lower risk for them for their money, which remember, people do with their money what they want to do. And then just going back to the whole thing of, how many people are in the US, how many people have reptiles. And so that person that's looking at a reptile, more than likely, they might be the only person in their whole family that even thinks about reptiles and not dogs and cats. So when it comes to that familiarity, then that's what it's all about. So that comfort level, that lower amount of risk, is something that you should really be doing the social media content or the expos or something just to get your name out there. Now, you know, we have a website, and of course you can have a website with a business card, and that definitely helps. But just starting out, if you're new to breeding reptiles, right, or you're considering breeding reptiles, that's one of the key things that you should consider is how much time should you commit to your social media platform? Not if you should do it, but how much time. So we do 1 video a week. There are people that do 2 or 3 videos a week. There are people that do 1 video a month. But either way, whatever you set your time frame on for your video releases, you should do that because, again, trust is owned, advertising is rented. What are customers actually buying? Well, I mean, what really are they buying? Well, they're buying the answers to their questions because the value of an animal, the animal itself is in the genetics. But to the customer, it is the genetics plus the customer service, right? So they want questions to the answers of, will it eat? What happens if it doesn't eat, or I have an issue with feeding? If I have an issue with husbandry, what happens if my animal arrives dead, like in a package that's shipped to them? Do they feel confident that things will be made right, or that the seller or the breeder will stick around and still talk to them about ways that they can fix it? Now, the way that we look at it as Spheric Reptiles, which we're just a study of one, right? But I do a lot of research, and that's why I always put out content the way that I do, is because I'm really trying to help people to understand that don't have the previous knowledge. Like, I have a science background and a sales background, so I love reptiles, and so I just blend everything together. But to make a long story short, one of the key things that I really do is after the sale is when I really start to try to help my customer. So if they're brand new to ball pythons, in this case, because that's what we're producing right now, ultimately we'll produce other animals, but for right now we produce ball pythons. I want to make sure that they have the right setup. I want to make sure that they have the right humidity and temperatures. I want to make sure that they know how to feed it, and if they have an issue with feeding. And then I have a reptile management manual for ball pythons that's 12 pages long, that for any of my customers, or if you want it, I can send you a digital copy, and that way it can help them. Why do I do this? Because I've been there, and I know what it's like for whenever you have a reptile and you're having issues and there's no one to help you. You look online, the information is vague at best. People are talking about topics that don't even relate to your issue. And then the solutions that are offered aren't very realistic. It's like over the top. Like, you need a bigger cage, and you need a waterfall feature, and you need 10,000 hides and all this other commercially available stuff, and you don't. And so that's why I put out the manual, because I've been there. But that's also why, from a customer service standpoint, that I approach my customers that way. I want to make sure that no matter what, they can go to info@Spheric Reptiles, they can call me, they can shoot me a text, they can hit us through Instagram, they can do whatever through YouTube, and I will answer their question. I give them so many different ways to get back in touch with us that it's ridiculous, because I want to make sure that they're happy with their reptile, and more importantly, I want to make sure that their reptile stays healthy and living and eating and successful, right? And I think that's one of the things that a lot of reptile breeders, and if you're new to this, that's something that you'll come across, is what happens to these babies that we spend so much time getting the animals to breed and to lay the eggs and ultimately hatch. What happens to them? I would like to hope that they all live great 25-year lives, but in reality, they don't. So when it comes to that customer, that's one of the main things, is just really instill that trust that you not only care about them, but you care about their animal too. And that's key. And that's one of the key ways you can do that, is by building those 5 pillars of trust. So the 5 pillars of trust are so key and important. And it doesn't just apply to the reptile market. It applies to sales in general. The first pillar is transparency. So you want to show what you do on a daily basis, whether it's feeding, whether it's assist feeding, whether it's cleaning poop, whether it's how you buy rodents, how you package your rodents. What do you do when an animal gets sick? What do you do when an animal dies? Like, when do you go to the vet? What medications do you have? All of that stuff. And plus, on top of that, you want to share your successes and your failures. Now, what does that do? So it shows that you're human. So if you show your failures and not just all your successes, people will be able to relate to you a lot better, right? So what they'll say is that, okay, I see that he had some animals reabsorbed. So I see that if my animals don't go, it's okay. It's happening to him too. The more that you talk about that, the more likely it is that someone will say, you know what? I think I can do this. I think I can breed my ball pythons, which is one of the things that I've been trying to tell you guys, that you can do this. And the steps are simple. Just try to create something new. But that transparency is key. The second thing is consistency. So with consistency, when it comes to trust, there's no shortcut around it. So yes, doing YouTube videos, Instagram videos, TikTok videos, posting things on Facebook or any other social media platform, doing reptile expos, whatever you choose to do, there's no shortcut to it. You have to actually do it. So that's why I say go ahead and set up that time so that you can actually turn out more consistent information, right? Because that's what you're giving, is you're giving information, you're selling yourself as a trustworthy individual or company for someone to actually choose, remember, to want to give you money for an animal. And then afterwards, that they're betting on the fact that the animal will eat and that you will be there if they have any issues. So why do I say consistency versus just all at once? So you could easily put out a video every day for 30 days, right? And then after the 30 days, don't put out any more videos. Well, the way that all of the algorithms work is that if you're not consistently putting it out, they'll push you to the back and let newer content creators get out in the front line, right? They will be put ahead of your video unless someone subscribed to your channel, and then they just go back and look at your older videos. But you know, people can kind of tell if you're into it or not. And I think that's the biggest thing is with consistency. Like the way that I look at it is I'm consistently putting out information on this YouTube channel because I'm consistently in here spending time with my reptiles. I'm consistently in here changing out water and poops. I mean, this is the first day I have on a Hawaiian shirt. This is what I normally wear. But other than that, I have on one of the Spheric reptile shirts or someone else's shirt. I'm in here getting dirty with it, clean out poop, spraying down chlorhexidine solution to sanitize something. You know, I mean, it's a lot. Cleaning out rodents that they haven't eaten that now have been there for a day or at least overnight. You know, it's just a lot. And I think that's what you need to convey to the people that you're trying to get to trust you, is that, hey, I'm a normal person and any issue that you have, I can handle. I bet I've seen. And that's what you really want to convey. Education. So don't be so concerned about selling animals. That's the least of my concern. You know, it's all about trust, because I know that if someone trusts me, and even if it's with someone else's animal, they might become a customer, but every time they see me, they'll see me as a knowledgeable proof source. So my only focus is to educate, because the way that I look at it, even in animals that are simple to take care of, like ball pythons, and it's an entry-level animal, just like a corn snake, a crested gecko, a bearded dragon, they're all entry-level animals, right? People still need to be educated on it. So teach them all of the ins and outs, the little tricks of the trade that you've ran across from years of experience, so that they're not having to have those same pitfalls and trips along the way, and they can have a lot of success. And the more success you can get people to have, the more fun they're going to have, so that when they see you, they want to come and they want to share that joy that they've been having with their reptiles. And I really like this snake. Like when I saw her at first and she shed out, I was just so amazed in how she's almost 2 years old and she's still got all these strong black dorsal lines in her. I mean, she's almost just like her dad. She just looks better. It's going to take a while before she gets up to the 1,700 gram weight that he has. He's just a shag version. Her sister's bigger than her. But anyway, that's sidebar. Documentation is number 4. So track everything. And what I mean by track everything is not everything. You don't have to track when they poop, but when they shed, when they eat, when they refuse, their weights month over month, the type of rodents that they're eating, whether they're eating live or frozen thawed. Just be honest about it and just track it. If they eat frozen thawed one day and this week, and then next week you just so happen to have a live, track it. Because inevitably, if it's an animal that you're planning on selling, then the customer will get that, and that's something that they could actually build upon. They could make that determination as to whether they want to feed live or frozen thawed. But if you've been tracking it, at least they'll have some sort of barometer or a baseline as to how much and how often that animal should be fed. And they can also look at the weights, and then they can see how often it sheds, and it just gives a lot clearer picture that's more trustworthy. Number 5 is, again, the customer follow-ups. Make sure you give that customer every possible way that they can get in contact with you. If you have a website, make sure you give them a website, a business card, a QR code. Like what we do is we give them this exact tub label, and it has the Husbandry Pro QR code on there for customers. And now it's a different one for breeders so that you can actually input the information. But by looking at that, they can see who the dam, the sire, the feeding schedule in the sheds, as well as the weight. And I tell them I'm gonna leave that up for about 6 months until they can get their routine going, and then they can start tracking things on their own. But until then, if they ever have a question as to like their animal isn't eating, well, how often did it eat? They can refer to that QR code that we put on the back of the business card, and it will let them know. And then if they call me, I can walk them through each step of the process. But you see just how more valuable that is for the customer. They already have the snake. I could easily turn my back on them and say, kick rocks, but that's not the way that I feel. I feel like if you get a reptile, I want you to enjoy every experience that you have. Like we try to make every experience for our reptiles enjoyable. Like one of the things that I want you guys to always notice about my animals, they're never head shy. Like we hold them so much and they still eat, but we start out when they're very small hatchlings. Like I handle them, I just reach in there and hold them. So they get so used to us that they still eat. And that's one of the reasons why we always tell our customers that, hey, let them get acclimated to their situation, and then you can start the gradual holding. And then I even explain to them how we hold them, when we hold them, how long we wait until after they eat. But again, that's all to build up those 5 pillars of trust. So use social media. I think you've heard a lot of videos about this. It's free. It's a good way to store your videos, and that way you can shoot as many videos as you want. And if you notice that one is starting to fall back, then you buy storage devices then, and then you can download everything onto the storage devices that you buy, right? So for me, it just makes sense. Instead of me storing this everywhere, I can actually see our own progression. But more importantly, you know who else sees that progression? People that are just interested in reptiles, or people that are interested in becoming new reptile breeders, or people that are looking to be customers of yours. They're watching these videos, and they can go back 3 or 4 years for us and still see videos on our journey. Like before we had all these racks, before we had an ultrasound, before we had a commercial incubator, when we just had one snake. We did our first expo after we bought one snake, and I bought 5 snakes, or I think 5 snakes at that one expo. It was an NARBC in 2022 or 23, and I did a video on that. That was our first video, and the very next video was what was the next video? I think it was a walkthrough, and then I did a feeding video. So I don't do any more feeding videos like that, but just to show you how long ago it's been, our background's changed a lot. And that's one of the things that people will see if you just spend that time in the social media. It doesn't have to be YouTube, even though I feel like YouTube's a better one because it allows people to see actual content and they get to know you and what you do a lot more than just, watching a quick picture or video. Man, she's really active today, which is really good. And let's see. The last thing I got for you is, say if I got $5,000 and I got 2 different breeders, and I give one to breeder A who just wants to put it in advertising, and I got another one who wants to put it into the 5 pillars. After 5 years, who would you bet on to be the most successful? Me, I'm going to bet on the one that chooses to go by the 5 pillars instead of just advertising. Because remember, advertising does get attention, but that attention is rented. Trust is owned. You have to build the trust in the community, this community especially. But when it comes to word of mouth advertising, which works out great with reptiles, then that's one of the key things as well, is that trust is earned and it's owned. I've shared with you guys a lot of things, like I've given you some numbers on the total pet market, the breakdown for reptiles, how much it costs to get each customer, whether you're using an expo, online, through social media. I've given you 3 different scenarios. Remember, one where the guy or the company had their animal and they sold it in 3 days, and one that 3 months later they still had the same animal. I gave you another one on someone that has the exact same animal that chooses to do social media and the one who doesn't. And then lastly, I gave you an example of the $5,000 investment in a person who chooses to do either advertisements or they invest in the 5 pillars. So What I'm interested in, and this is the kicker, and I mean, like and subscribe if you want to, but I'm really interested in your comments. So she's gonna wrap me up. I guess she thinks she's a retic or something, right? So what I'm interested in is for your comments on what causes you to buy a reptile from one person versus another. I think that's a good one to start on, because the more comments we get like this, the more change we can get, and we can get more customer focused, either content or breeders out there, so that it's a better environment for all reptile keepers. And then maybe we can go from that 6 million people to 12 million people. Hey guys, without anything else, I'm with Baby Ruth. This is part of a candy bar clutch. We got another candy bar clutch, but enjoy that time that you spend with your reptiles like Baby Ruth here, and definitely love that family while you have them, guys. Thank you.